How do we start? How do we solve that question? There's a hint in the question. What is the hint? Pardon me? Hypotenuse, did you say? I just couldn't hear you, Supal. Hypotenuse is the hint. Once you see the word hypotenuse, what are you dealing with? A squared, B squared, C squared, right? If it was 3 and 4, it would be 3 squared plus 4 squared equals 5 squared, right? If it was 10, no, not 10. If it was 12 and 5 and 12, it would be 5 squared and 12 squared equals 169. The hypotenuse would be 13, right? So it's all the same thing. One of the sides is x plus 2. Frozen on the first thing I wrote. It didn't freeze during the test thing, did it? I wonder if maybe it's the recording that's messing me up. But no, it isn't, because when I do these without recording, it's still screwed. I think it's just bad technology. X plus 2 is one side, and what happens to it? Squares. Plus, what's the second side? 5x minus 3, and what happens to it? Squared. Equals what? The hypotenuse. And what happens to that? Squared. Now, I notice a lot of pens moving. This is my version of homework check. Right? Because now I know. I said attempt it. Yes, I did. And yet I see a million pens moving. So that means your attempt was, nope. That's not an attempt. Okay? That's like saying, you know what? I tried to climb that mountain. I looked at it on a map, said, nope. That's not actually trying to climb the mountain. Okay? I tried to do a backflip off the diving board. Looked at the diving board. That's not trying. Trying to do a backflip off the diving board is getting on there, flipping, landing on your back, going, ow, and then getting up and doing it again. Has that happened to anyone? Of course it's happened to me, because as you all well know, I'm an old man. But shut up, actually. I know I'm old. You don't need to remind me. What were you going to say? You drowned. You look pretty good to me. The lifeguard had to drag you out? Oh, I have actually a story about that too, actually. Remind me. So when I was your guys' age, I did things like flips off of diving boards, because when you're young, you're obviously Superman, right? Or woman, or the Incredible Hulk, or insert your favorite hero here, because you're not going to get hurt, right? That's why you guys are all doing backflips on your snowboards and things. So I used to do flips off diving boards all the time. But then I became an old man, and I stopped doing flips off of diving boards and things. But then I had children. And children want you to be their superhero. So they're like, Dad, can you do a flip off the diving board? No, I'm old. Dad, you're not old. I think you can. All right. So then you go and you do flips off the diving board. Honestly, you attempt flips off the diving board. You don't just look at the diving board and say no. But then you think, okay, I'm going to do this flip off the diving board, and I'll shut the little punk up. So I get out there, I do a flip off the diving board. He's like, yeah! Dad! Yes, son. Do a backflip off the diving board. Son of a... All right. So I get up there, stand on the edge of the diving board with your back to the water and do that backflip. Yeah, Dad! Now do the backflip where you're facing forward and you bounce and you flip backwards. All right. Do that one. No problem, right? I'm like, okay, this is it. Wow. Now do them off the 3 meter, Dad. I won't do the forward backward one off the 3 meter. I've done the regular backflip and the front flip. You know the one I mean, right? If this is the water, you bounce and you bring your feet this way. Is that what it's called? I don't know. I call it forward backward. Anyway, won't do them off the 3 meter because I'm scared, because in 1984, Greg Louganis smashed his head on the board None of you guys will remember that because you weren't born. But one of the divers was doing that backflip, and he smashed his head on the board on the way down. Oh, it was gross. I'll show you a video if we have time. Anyway, so I won't do that one. So I had to start doing flips again. That's the story I was trying to make. Now, the story about drowning. I used to know how to swim, and then I didn't swim for like 2 years in my life for some strange reason. And then my neighbors invited me to their pool, and they had a slide. I went down the slide first thing. And I was like, oh! And my dad had to dive in and save me. It was very embarrassing. Anyway, so of course you square both of these, yes? How do I square this? Is it x squared plus 4? No, what is it? X squared plus 4x plus 4. Plus, is this 25x squared minus 9? No, it's 25x squared minus 30x plus 9. Is this 16x squared plus 1? No, it's 16x squared plus 8x plus 1. Yes? Then what do you do with all of those? Collect your like terms. All your x squareds first. So on this side, you had 26x squared, then your x's, minus 26x plus 13, yes? Equals 16x squared plus 8x plus 1. Then what? Collect like terms again. Bring that over here. What do you got? 10x squared. Bring that 8 over here. What do you got? Negative 34x. Bring that 1 over here. What do you got? Plus 12 equals 0. Then what? Factor. What comes out of there? 2. 5x squared minus 17x plus 6 equals 0. Now what? Come on, sir, I've dropped me a beat. What? No? No beatbox? Nothing? You know, you sit at the front for a reason, Sarav. What now? Factor, factor, factor. When do we stop factoring, Megan? Never! Factor, factor, factor. So how do I factor that? Didn't we just write a test on factoring? Of course we did. So everyone can do it. What is it? 5 times 6, which equals what? So I need factors of 30 that add to what? What is it? X minus 15 over 5 and x minus 2 over 5 equals 0. Simplify. 2x minus 3. 2x. Ooh. Now, excuse me, 5x minus 2. Now, this is what you would have done on the last test, yes? But I told you when you're doing this section, do I need to go past here? No, because this gives me my answers, doesn't it? X has to be 3 or negative 2/5, correct? Are both of those legitimate answers? No, why not? Because if I use negative 2/5, what distance do I get for that side and that side? I get a negative number, don't I? Can I have a negative distance? No. So what is the only answer that makes sense? 3. So that's how long the x had to be. Is everybody good? Excellent. Now, the question becomes, please understand that what we are doing here is math skills, yes? This is not a real life problem, right? But there are real life problems that use unknowns that you're going to use these skills to solve. Understand? Okay. Let us move on then to page 75. We should only need to do the first one. If I factor that, what do I need? I need numbers that multiply to 25 and add to 10, yes? 5 and 5. So it's x plus 5, x plus 5, yes? And if it's x plus 5 equals 0, then what is the only thing x can equal? Negative 5. Is everybody cool with that? Right? Now, notice this perfect square trinomials, and notice that and that. What do you notice about everything that's green right now? They're all perfect squares, aren't they? Okay, so what do you notice about 2? It's a perfect square, yeah? So, knowing what you know from 1, apply that to 2. It ended up being x plus 5, right? Well, what's 2? It's going to be x plus 3, yes? Which means what does x have to equal? Negative 3. Great. What's number 3? X plus 7 squared. Let's shorten it down, yeah? Everyone's cool with what I did in number 3? Equals 0, so x had to equal negative 7. What's number 4? Uh-oh, 4 is weird. What's weird about 4? It's negative 8, right? So it's still going to be x, and it's still going to be 4, but what kind of 4? Negative 4. X minus 4 squared equals 0, which means x equals what? Positive 4. Is everybody picking this up? Sophie, I'm just going to wait a moment for you to look at this. So this is all we did that was new. We did go over the hypotenuse question on page 74, but I recorded it. So what's 5? X minus 9 squared equals 0. So what's x? 9. And what's number 6? So what's x? 10. Now, you guys, please read this. In your words, write down a sentence here that will help you remember this pattern. I am not going to give you those words. If you choose not to write it down, that's your decision. But write down something that made you able to do 3, 4, 5, and 6 by just looking at it. Because as I said, what's the answer here? Everybody was just saying the answer. Everybody who was able to say it saw a pattern. Here, I'll let you write a little longer. So, does everybody have something written down for themselves? Okay. This is what I mean by a perfect square trinomial. It's got a perfect square at the front, a perfect square at the back, and you can use a combination of those squares to add up to the number in the middle. Is everybody cool? You probably wrote something different. That's the whole point. Is everybody all right with that? Yeah? Okay. So now, this says solving by completing the square. Okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write down a polynomial. X squared plus, let's go with 6x plus 4 equals 0. Is that a perfect square trinomial? Antonio says no. Jess Carrot says yes. Megan says yes. The other 27 of you aren't giving me anything. Luke says no. Julia says no. Priyanka says yes. Yeah. Max says no. Yes. Sarav says yes. Okay, good. I'm glad this happened. How many of you said yes because you saw squared and squared? Perfect. What's the rest of the definition? Got to add up to the middle. What's the square root of 4? What's the square root of 1? Do 2 and 1 make 4 in any way? No. So this is not a perfect square trinomial. Do you understand me? Okay. So this is not a square trinomial. Why? Because root 4 and root 1 cannot add to 6. Does everybody understand what I have done there? Going once, going twice, going thrice. Everybody understand why this doesn't work? Everybody cool? Yeah? Okay. So if everybody's cool with that, what is this section called? It's called solving by completing the square. What does the word complete mean in English? If you walked into my house and on my dining room table was a half put together puzzle, what would you do? How would you solve it? You'd put the rest of the pieces in, yes? Or you would be like my best friend, because my mom did a ton of puzzles. My best friend in high school, he came into the house once, and he pocketed one piece of the puzzle. My mom finished the whole puzzle, went ape poo because she couldn't find the one piece, because she had bought the puzzle new. And he walked in the next time he visited, finish your puzzle, Pat. It was pretty funny when you were there. I mean, this was before the internet, so leave us alone. Do any of you watch the show Modern Family? Did you see the one where she didn't have her phone for 3 days? That was a good one. I would love to make all of you do that. Not all of you, everybody in the entire world, actually. I shouldn't say the entire world, only North America, where everybody has a phone and forgets that there is a world out there outside of their 4x6 or 4.6 centimeter screen or inch screen or whatever the hell they are. Okay, so if I was going to complete this square, what part of it do you think must I work with? Would I work with the 4? Would I work with the 4? Or would I work with the x's? I haven't taught you this. What do you think? Yeah, exactly. You would work with the x's. Okay? Everybody cool? And you follow a certain set of steps. All right? And those steps are always the same thing. Everybody cool with this? I'm not going to give you the steps yet. We're going to go over it. Everybody okay? All right. So now we can turn our page over and we can have a look at the first question. First of all, let's talk about what that is. It's all through your notes right now. It's graphing calculator. Graphic display calculator. You can do all of this with one of these, which we are going to get into eventually. But right now we're going to learn how to do it with real math. Okay? Now, here's what we're going to do. Is that a perfect square trinomial? Yeah, it is. So, if this equaled 0, x squared plus 14x plus 49 equaled 0, could we solve it? What would it be? What would the answer be? X would equal what? Negative 7, right? Because we'd factor this. X minus 7, x plus 7 squared would equal 0. Cool? All right. Knowing what you know, even though I haven't taught you completing the square, solve this for me. What are you going to do to the yellow stuff first? What would we do with the yellow stuff? What would we do here? Factor. So factor the yellow side. X plus 7 squared equals 5. Everyone agree? Okay. Knowing what you know about math, what's your job when you see a variable like that? Isolate it. Okay, so what would I do to get rid of that? Square root. If I square root the left side, I'm going to get x plus 7, am I not? Okay, so square root the left side, and I get x plus 7. But according to the rules of algebra, once I do that to the left side, what do I got to do to the right side? Square root that side. Everyone agree? Now, here's where something new is going to happen to you. What is the square root of 5? First of all, we don't know it because it's irrational, right? So how do we write that now that we're out of grade 8 when we use our calculators for everything? Do we write anything different, or do we just write the square root of 5? That's what we write, correct? Last unit, we talked about the fact that every square root has a positive and a negative, doesn't it? And when we were dealing with radical equations, we only cared about the positive one, didn't we? Why? Don't write this down. X plus 9 equals 21. Why did we only care about the positive x there? The positive root there. Okay, I'll repeat myself. When I square both of these, that's what opens me up to a negative, yes? But in the original form, I can't have a negative under there, can I? All right, good. So here, though, can I have the negative here? There's no square roots in there, is there, Luke? Could x be a negative number here? Because negative x squared is just going to be positive, isn't it? So I'm okay. So I have to remember in this unit, I have to use both of the roots, not just the principal root. Does everybody understand what I'm saying? Unlike last unit, we need all roots. I think it's going to write rots. I think I missed an O. But it's frozen. Yeah, I did. I wrote rots. We need all roots here. So now I have x plus 7 plus or minus root 5. Now, how will I isolate that x? Pardon? Subtract 7. X equals negative 7 plus or minus root 5. And this becomes your answer. Does everybody see? Now this expression messes with kids' heads. That means plus or minus, yes? So that means this actually has two answers. Negative 7 plus root 5 and negative 7 minus root 5. Is everybody cool? Everyone's good? Max?
Can we check to see which one it is?
No, because they'll both work in this case. Because there's no square root. Cool?
Yep.
And here's what I mean by that. Do a real simple one. Don't write this down. Square root of x plus minus 4 equals 0. Solve this. That's got to move over, right? So the root of x equals 4, yes? Square both sides. Oh, I did it backwards. Sorry. X squared. That's what we want, right? So then I get x squared equals 4. Square root both sides. X equals plus or minus 2, right? So now go back up to here. Negative 2 squared is positive 4, yes? Positive square 4 minus 4 equals 0. So negative 2 works, right? 2 squared is 4. 4 minus 4 is 0. So positive 2 works. Understand? In the last unit, since we had a square root at the beginning, we couldn't have used the negative. Everybody cool? So you guys do the second one. What's it going to look like? What's our first step? The same first step we use every time if we can do it. Factor. What do we get? X minus 3 squared, right? Equals what? 6. Solve it. Square root both sides. X minus 3 equals plus or minus root 6. Right? So what does x equal? 3 plus root 6 or 3 minus root 6. And we rewrite that for simplicity as 3 plus or minus root 6. Is everybody good? Everyone is good? Going once, going twice, going thrice? Okay. Now, those are easy ones. What's different about A here? It's not a trinomial, is it? Right? What do we need on this side of the equation to do what we've been doing? We need a perfect square trinomial, don't we? Right? Now, let me ask you this. Think back to grade 10. Remember when we were graphing things that looked like this? X plus 7 equaled y. You remember those? What happens if I do the same thing to both sides of this? What will the line look like? Better do a quick review here. How would you graph that? I know a great many of you would go to a table of values. I hope that some of you wouldn't. I hope that some of you would remember that that's slope-intercept form, yes? Which would mean I would go up to 7, and I have a slope of positive 1. So if I went down 7 and over 7, I could make the line, yes? What would happen if I did the same thing to both sides of this equation? Here's an example. I multiply both sides by 2. What do I get? (2x plus 14 equals 2y), yeah? When I graph that black line, where will it be? It'll be the exact same line, won't it? So doing the same thing to both sides doesn't change the math, does it? Doesn't change my x's and y's. So, looking at what I have now, if I do something to this side to make it pretty and a perfect square trinomial, if I do the same thing to this side, will I be allowed? Is that allowed? Okay. So how would I make this a perfect square trinomial? What are the rules for that term? What does it have to be? Back on our very first page. In a perfect square trinomial, the third term has to be what? A square. Excellent. And what else do we know about that third term? The square root has to add to the middle term, doesn't it? Okay. So if the square root has to add to the middle term, then it must be half, right? Everyone agree? So if I cut this in half, what's 10 divided by 2? What's 5 squared? Plus 25. Is this now a perfect square trinomial? Does everybody see why that works? Square root of 25 is 5. 5 plus 5 is 10. Is everybody cool? So please notice I divided by 2 and I squared the answer, right? This is b divided by 2 squared. Everyone agree? Now, how much have I added to the left side of the equation? 25. So how much do I have to add to the right side of the equation? So now, what do I have? What's my new trinomial? X squared plus 10x plus 25 equals what? 31. Now, do you know what to do with that? What do we do with the polynomial? Factor it. What do I get? Equals 31, yeah? Now what? Square root. X plus 5 equals plus or minus the square root of 31. What does x equal? What kind of 5? Negative 5. Plus or minus root 31. Does everybody see what we did? Yeah? Everyone's good? All right, let's look at the second one. I'll choose a different color. I'll work in green. I've got x squared minus 12x equals 3. I left a blank there. Why? Because what do I need? I need a perfect square trinomial, yes? How do I find it? Divide by 2. Square it. What's it going to be? Plus 36. What do I have to add to this side? Plus 36. What do I have now? Well, we've got it. So what should I do there? X minus 6 squared equals what? 39. And go ahead and solve it. X minus 6 equals plus or minus root 39. X equals 6 plus or minus root 39. Is everybody cool? Easy, right? What's different about C? Because C isn't easy. Is this already a perfect square? No. Right? So what can I do with this to make it look like something that I know what to do with? I can move the 1 over. I can move anything I want, anytime I want in algebra, can't I? So the first thing I would do is isolate this crap that I know what to deal with. X squared minus 3x equals 1, right? Now, you've just seen this work 4 times, correct? So is it going to work here? Yeah, but it's going to be ugly, isn't it? What's going to make it ugly? This is an odd number, isn't it? So when I divide it by 2, I'm going to get 1.5, yeah? And every single one of you is going to want to write 1.5, aren't you? Because fractions make you pee your pants a little. They shouldn't, should they? What is 3 divided by 2 squared? Come on. No. 9 over 4. 3 over 2 squared equals 9 fourths. 3 times 3, 2 times 2. 1.5 squared. Do that in your head. Can you do it? Sure you can. It's 2.25. But it's more difficult than staying with fractions, isn't it? Plus 9 fourths. How much should I add to both sides? 9 fourths. You guys are smart kids. This factors the same way, doesn't it? It's the square root of the first one, x, minus, because it's a negative there, the square root of the second one, 3 halves. Yes? Equals, how many fourths is 1? 4 fourths. Plus 9 fourths is how much? 13 fourths. Now, does this look exactly like this? Does, doesn't it? Square root both sides. X minus 3 halves equals plus or minus the root of 13 fourths. Then what? Finish it off. X equals 3 halves. Now, if you are scared to death of fractions, can you do this with decimals? You can, right? Because 3 halves is 1.5 and 13 fourths is 3.25, correct? Do I really care which one you use? No, not really. Now, I'm going to wait a moment while you guys try to fill this in. Try to tell me, that's your homework tonight. Write out your steps for what we just did 3 times. And tomorrow we're going to practice it. I'm not going to give you homework on it tonight. That's your job. What? I need the tests back. That's why I'm stopping. I need you to drop them off. There's still 2 minutes left in class because the bells are a minute behind my computer clock. So bring me your tests. Next time, Julia, you reach yours forward and you make him walk up. Oh, crap. Drop him off on the way. Mr. Kalia, stay here for a minute. Oh, yours is in. I got to mark it. Check it later. Check my mark. Hopefully by lunch.
Thank you.
I'm going to keep it between us. I don't want it to happen again. Okay? And I know it seems like I'm accusing you and not blaming Luke, but Luke was at every class, and it made more sense to me. Okay? Okay? Please don't do it. Right? Because if you do it again, then I got to take it to the principals. Okay? And I don't want to involve them. We have a good working relationship. I know you only did it because you think you need to.
It was okay until I got to here. That's where I just
Okay.
edited it out.
So you're probably going to need to do the read. You honestly did this factoring?
Yeah.
This is honest?
Yeah.
You're not lying to me? It was only this that you couldn't
It
do?
was, I'll be honest, it was from this, from 2 to 4, and it was
One question over there?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what I'm willing to do for you. I'll let you do the read. Obviously, you're going to do the cumulative,
Yeah.
right? I trust you on this page,
Yeah.
so on your factoring part of that cumulative, if this beats it, I'll put that in
Okay.
where it says 0.
Yeah.
But this retest, this part is gonna, your only chance is gonna be the cumulative. And if you do it again, I gotta take it. I gotta kick it upstairs. Okay?
Thank you. Sorry about that.
It's okay. That's why we talk, right? That's why I don't treat you guys like nothing. Because I know you enough to know that you did this out of desperation. It's not a thing. Okay.
The Friday I didn't do the quiz because I am outside.
Yes,
Yeah.
I know.
Okay.
So you will have to do it. If you want to do it,
Yeah.
then you'll have to find some time to do it. Lunchtime, after school, whenever. Okay?